I think what I'll do is I'll just start out with ask you a little bit about what's the journey been for this year? What have been some of the highs and some of the lows and struggles and the successes?
Okay. This year it was, all of us in our team, we did not know what we were getting into for the most part. We did some book studies, we took a venture out to Maine and to Chaska, Minnesota, so we could see customized learning in action. Mm-hmm. And from there we were able to take different ideas, and then throughout the summer we met and kind of came up with a game plan of what we thought we wanted to do. Well, when the kids got here, our mindset completely changed, and we were then able to figure out what would work, what didn't work. One of the biggest challenges throughout the beginning part of the year was being able to, find that perfect mix of, having voice and choice with movement and flexibility with learning. So we tried a bunch of different structures for reading and math until we found the perfect one that we found to be the most successful for everyone involved, facilitators, learners, and to have, some of our main must-haves with the voice and choice and the ability to move. I couldn't have done it without the team that I'm with. We really work well together, and without having somebody to pick you up when you feel like you can't do it anymore, sure. It was good because we all kind of hit bad days at different times. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to have that reassurance, you're fine, we'll get through, we'll figure out how to make this better. And just seeing the kids' excitement when they understand something, and just seeing how we were able to kind of change their mindset about their learning as well has been one of the greatest, I think achievements that we've had this year with the customized learning. A lot of them are really taking control of their learning, and they're happy with that and proud of where they've come and where they want to go. So it's really nice to see that aspect where instead of, us saying do this, they get to make some of those choices. Well, this is where I want to go next, and this is what I want to do to show my learning. So it's been nice to see that change in many of them.
You mentioned the reading and the math. I've seen a little bit about the math, but tell me more about how did you restructure the math for the kids?
The math we structure around a daily 3. So there's a math by myself portion. There is a math with a partner, so they can work collaboratively because we feel like that was an important piece. And then also math with a facilitator. Okay. And then to show their understanding, we have a write about math where they do something where they're going to write and explain their thinking. And then also kind of what we say a mastery checker, like a formative assessment piece.
Tell me more about the mastery. What is it the traditional, here's a sheet of paper with multiple choice questions, or what?
Some of them have been online, and some of them have been, just 4 or 5 problems to see, do they get it, do they not understand it, and then we could see where we need to go in our coaching sessions with them, or see where their misconception was, or hey, they have it, let's go. We can move on to the next concept or skill. Mm-hmm.
Now, in a mixed environment where you have multiple grades, mm-hmm. How did you structure the math then so that it's not so grade level oriented?
Well, what we've done is we've built a learning continuum with all the standards into various measurement topics. Mm-hmm. So for example, one of them would be addition, subtraction. So then we took the standards and put them in order based on what you should have as foundational skills to lead into the next concept or skill. And then the kids would work through those concepts or those standards at their own pace, and then until they reached the end of, let's say, their grade level content. And if they chose to keep going and they were really interested, they could. But then they kind of knew where they would start and where they would end. But we would also pre-assess them to know, well, what skills maybe are they missing, which will help them along the way. Mm-hmm. So we could fill in a few gaps if there were any.
So as children progress through these blocks of mm-hmm. standards, if you will, how do you check for mastery then? Do you have a typical percentage grading, or how do you
We are standards based right now. So ours is an M, they've met or mastered that standard. P, it's progressing, and not met yet. Mm-hmm. But our goal obviously is we're not going to kind of let them go until we know that they have met it. But also we don't want them to be so frustrated, if they just don't get it at this time, we can always come back to it. Mm-hmm. So we may leave it at a P, you're frustrated, we've tried different things, let's take a break, let's try something new, and then we can come back. So with our program, that's been great that we've had that flexibility, or using another facilitator as a resource, which has been amazing. So I've had the same group, just not getting it. Maybe it's a different explanation from somebody else or a different room. So that's been really beneficial this year too, where we can shift kids.
So all the kids have kind of a matrix, if you will, of mm-hmm. where they've progressed.
Right.
And So how does that work for reporting to parents then?
We actually mid-year sent home, well, our LMS system, Buzz, kind of houses all of our measurement topics, and it's all set up into individual courses. So like we'd have an addition subtraction course, a multiplication division course, and they could see throughout the progress where their learner is at. And then also, we also have, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
That's it.
Then we also sent home progress reports just a couple weeks ago to update parents, like with our NWEA data, like where they started the fall, where they were at in the winter, or their DRA scores. So it was kind of a mid-year progress report. And we've learned also that we're going to try to do that more often next year, like first quarter, second quarter.
So your MAPS testing, is that pretty much just the benchmark times, or do you use it in between times?
We actually use a skills navigator piece from the NWEA as kind of our mastery checks for math a lot too.
Okay.
That's the computer piece that I mentioned.
Okay.
I just didn't go into detail.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about the reading then. How
Okay.
do you have that structured?
The reading is structured around the daily 5. So we have a read to self, we have a word work, we have a work on writing, math with reading with like a facilitator. And then we also have technology intertwined in our ELA block, where Mr. Knips, our tech integrationist, will show the kids different apps that they can use to show their learning in any concept or content area. And yeah, so then like throughout that week, we'd have a mix of grades 2 through 5, or littles to olders as we call them. And so then we just adjust accordingly with our coaching sessions based on whatever level, reading level or age level we're working with at the time.
So tell me a little bit about the kids in an environment where you're mixing anywhere from typically the age level of 2nd grade to 5th grade. How does that work to have kids who are multi-age working together?
You know, it goes back to the beginning of the year for us. We knew we needed to build a sense of community because this is such a shift or it's a big change in the mindset of parents, learners, us as facilitators. We spent 2 weeks to introduce the habits of mind skills and really build that sense of community with the learners that are in our program. So each day we introduced a new habit of mind, and also the power of yet was very beneficial. I don't understand it yet, and it's okay that if I'm a 2nd grader and I'm working in a group with a 5th grader. It doesn't matter, it's what's best for my learning. And that's also something that we constantly keep bringing up.
Now, do you have issues with stigmas of older kids working with younger kid content, or is it not really viewed that way?
The purpose of our program is to meet the learners where they're at and what they need. So if they're 2nd grade age and they're reading at a 4th grade level, well, then we're going to give them content at a 4th grade level because that's where they're at. We want to keep challenging and moving at the same time, but also be able to go deeper into certain content areas at the same time. So we want to challenge them, but also make them feel successful and build that confidence through whatever they're working on.
But in the reverse situation where you've got an older kid who maybe is considered a lower level, are there issues with kids being put in a position where they're actually in content that would be considered for younger kids?
It's not that they'd be in content, but their books that they're reading would be, they're still learning the same concept or skill. Okay. They're just the level reader that they might be using might just be at a different level. And they would be with their grade alike peers for right now, science, social studies, grammar, writing for now. So yeah, we haven't seen any of that.
Okay. You mentioned the mindsets. So what are some of the things that you see different in the mindset of the kids in an environment like this as opposed to a traditional?
In our program, and it took a little while to build some of this into them, being able to articulate what they need. If they're not understand something, that they can say, hey, Mrs. Wagers, I need another coaching session, or I don't understand this piece or this process. So then we know exactly what they need and we can help them, which is great. They're in charge of their learning. And also too, just to being able to take ownership of their learning and where they want to go, how fast they want to go. And you still have some of the same day-to-day things like a universal classroom would have. You have those kids that, need a little push here and there, or just, that organizational piece. But to see what the kids are able to come up with on their own has been amazing, to give them a little bit of freedom and choice. So,
some of the people, maybe a misperception out there is if they don't see the teacher up front teaching to 30, that they're not teaching anymore. In what way do you see your role as teaching? Very much teaching, but just in a different way.
It is. And to be honest, that was one of the hardest things for me to adjust to. Like, I didn't feel like I was teaching, but I really was, because they were understanding it, you know. But we do more small groups based on what they need at the time. You know, it wasn't a whole group teaching the same thing where Bob and Sally might already know it, so they're bored out of their mind, or, you know, these two just aren't here with me. So, you know, when you're in a small group, you're reaching those kids with what they exactly need. So when you remove that direct instruction piece, I don't know. And the questions that we get in small groups, way more detailed. The kids aren't afraid to speak up. You know, they'll ask for help. They explain everything that they need from us. So that's been huge. That's been one of the biggest ahas, I think, for all of us as a team. In our small group coaching sessions, is like, they're not afraid to ask questions. Whereas if it was a whole group, they may have. So it's been great to see that.
Is there anything else about customized learning that you wish we would have talked about that we didn't?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a challenging year, you know, but as with building any new program or trying something new, you have your ups, you have your downs. But like I said, you know, our admin did a great job of putting the right team together. So I'm very thankful for my teammates. You know, we balance each other out very well, which is key, because if you were all alike, it probably wouldn't be as successful, you know. So there was a very good balance. So I appreciate them and all the work that, you know, our Mr. Lape and Mrs. Pedersen and Dr. Rasmussen have done for us to help us be successful. You know, we have that support, which is huge. Yeah.